when, different companies or organizations were like, oh my God, kind of shut down, close the windows, let us just go through it. They're behind. And this year was actually a huge test for, agility, taking risks, putting yourself out there, being more, humble, with your customers and with the, the ecosystem.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Romi Tech and sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. Corporate innovation is more and more relevant, today important for everyone. Meet Romi Davidor, Director of CatalystIL. In 2018, Romi joined the Israel Innovation Institute with a clear vision of forming a professional, first-of-its-kind community in the field of innovation management in organizations, corporates, and on a geographical level. Following this passion, Romi co-founded and today the Director of CatalystIL community with more than 2,300 community members, 200 innovation managers, and 100 and more professionals, all part of the ecosystem. Romi Davidor, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you. Very nice to be here with you.
It's an honor having you here, talking about corporate innovation and innovation management, community building, director at CatalystIL, working with the Israeli ecosystem, and all around innovation. What does innovation even mean, and how does it actually get translated into corporates in a corporate setting, which a lot of times is far from being synonymous with innovation. Romi, what is innovation in your eyes?
Wow. It's interesting that you were asking me this as the first question, because this is the first question that I'm asking on a new podcast that I'm running with a very good friend of mine and a colleague, which is still not out. It's not in the air. It's called the Transformators. And this is the first question that we ask each innovation manager that we're hosting, because each person and each innovation leader really sees innovation in a different way. And in my perspective, innovation is a way to create a change, either in change management or using technology, creating a new value for an acute problem or a challenge. This is innovation. Innovation has to be connected to the core business and has to be connected to the strategy of the organization. This is when true innovation actually occurs and can be in help.
Right. And so, when you talk about all of that, what is innovation then in the context of corporates and specifically into the Israel ecosystem?
Okay, so maybe to take it a bit back to people that don't know CatalystIL or the Israel Innovation Institute. So I joined in 2018 the Israel Innovation Institute with a very clear vision of forming a professional, first of its kind community in the field of innovation management in organizations, corporate, and also on a geographical level. Following this passion, actually, I was the co-founder and today the director of CatalystIL community. It has over 2,500 community members, over 230 innovation managers that I'm in touch with on a daily basis across all companies in the Israeli market, and over hundreds of different professionals from the ecosystem. And when we first formed CatalystIL, we saw that there's a huge need for a community, for an umbrella organization for all innovation leaders in Israel. It's quite a new profession. Everybody knows what's a CFO, a CDO. In each different corporate, innovation looks different and it answers a different need. And we say, okay, well, if we want to make sure that more and more innovation is implemented in Israeli companies and for the benefit of whoever lives here, we want to make sure that we strengthen the innovation leader or manager in different corporates and different organizations. And it sounds very vague maybe, but it means to make sure that more innovation managers actually know how to bring value to their own organization. And the very first steps in whatever company the innovation leader is at is actually understanding the challenges. What are the acute and most painful points that innovation can be in help? And when we talk about innovation in corporate, it can be working with the ecosystem, meaning working with academia, working with accelerators, working, of course, with startups that we have so many here in Israel in different fields. And it also means working internally and seeing how, different people in different departments can actually be in help and, bringing different, professional work that they're already doing in their organization to the benefit of their organization. And sometimes this is actually kind of a blind spot. Most innovation managers in Israel, because we're living in the startup nation, go outside to the ecosystem, and not many of them actually look internally into the organization. So this is kind of the way I see it in my perspective.
So let's do a deep dive into an organization, and what are some of the the intricacies. I understand innovation as a small group of people. You're defining a new culture. You're defining you're defining an innovation in the essence of creating a new company. Once you're at a big company, you're starting to see things moving a little bit slower for a good reason, because you've now built a world around you and the world works, and you want to move fast and break things, but you don't really want to break things because it works and you're dependent on that. So walk me through
Exactly.
how a corporate looks top down, and where does the innovation lie within a big corporate like that, and how do things actually move?
So I'll divide, my answer. I think, it has a different perspective. So when people ask me, on an organizational level, and if we're looking at a structure, where should this innovation manager be placed at? And I say it has to be exactly near and under the CEO. If the innovation manager is not reporting to the CEO and top management, it's a huge factor, because it means that usually this innovation leader will probably go and do things that are not in the core business, and that's fine. There's a lot of innovation movements that are not for core business. For employer branding, for making sure that it's fun and innovation. Everybody wants to be branded with innovation, and I'm sorry for, I have, this is not how I think innovation should serve, a company, but a lot of companies doesn't have, the muscle and the understanding of making sure that innovation, it has to be in the core, meaning with the CEO. And it means that,
Right.
If it's with the CEO, it has budgets and, allocating budgets for POCs, for trial and error, for, being more agile to also failing in innovation. And it's a huge, there's a huge talk about failure, that it's kind of beneath, the layers. But if a corporate really wants to manage innovation, it has to be, open for real to fail, because innovation usually fails until something works. So we see that, the ability to fail, or the ability to, to do trial and error, really kind of, it really touches a very fragile part of the corporate. So this is on the optimum is, that the innovation leader is close to the CEO, has budget, has a title, has, good cooperation and working methodologies with the different units. This is always what I have to say, that is the most structured way to manage innovation.
Right.
In different corporates, it's more, like grassroots. It's more like bottom up. There's a lot of people that really are interested in innovation. They really understand the value that it can bring to a company, but there's no, someone with a title. And they start, bringing up ideas and different, initiatives from the bottom. And this is also a very special way, because once things are starting to bubble up from the bottom, a good management will understand it, see it, and embrace it. Once that there is an embrace of that innovation that is coming, kind of growing up from the grassroots, this is also a way to grow a person that will actually manage innovation in a company. But there's a lot of difficulties in this work. And as I always say, the person who manages innovation has a very big attribute to the succession of the work. So this is also kind of a point, that we see in corporates. A person that that has, gained the trust and the professionalism working with the different units will be the one to actually more execute innovation with the business units. Regarding other people that didn't gain that trust, they don't have that personal kind of interaction with the different units, and then we will see that innovation mostly is not really going anywhere.
So it sounds to me that one of the biggest hurdles in the friction within corporates is this idea of failure and harnessing failure, and that is on one spectrum. So being able to understand, okay, we're actually opting in for failure at this point, which is very anti-corporate mindset. You're basically building up all these walls, you're building all these mechanisms to avoid failure, and then along comes somebody and says, well, actually, let's now do everything possible to try and reach this failure so that we can learn. I can see why there's a little bit of a dissonance there in the mindset. But then it sounds like the other important aspect of an innovation manager is this idea of the integration between all the various parts and being able to motivate the different units, because you no longer just need to, it's fine convincing the CEO, in a meeting, but then you have to go and convince other team leaders and other directors why they should take the risk and potentially waste resources on this, weird innovation thing you're trying to do.
Exactly. And I can say that, in companies that the innovation leader didn't manage to actually, have the other business units understand that the innovation manager is actually kind of like, he's an enabler for the business units. And if the business units don't see the value that this innovation leader can bring them, different companies, different startups, a new perspective, something that is, in the trends now. And so if they don't understand it and want to work with the innovation manager, it will completely fail, because the innovation leader is not, it doesn't stand alone. It's connected. And I always use the metaphor for like an octopus. An innovation manager, it's like in the middle of the organization with arms completely until, the manufacturing kind of floor, and all the way up to top management. And so if the innovation leader is not able to do this kind of multi outreach in the organization, it will be very difficult for him to actually execute and actually work forward for the goals that were kind of listed in the KPIs for the innovation efforts in the company.
So is there just a handbook of how to do this that every innovation manager should read, or because it sounds like it's a new type of position. It's not one that you hire frequently. It's one that is very specialized, and I'm guessing there is only a few of those, even in the bigger corporates. And so, what are the ways that today innovation managers are built? Are they previous entrepreneurs? Are they just directors that have a knack for this ultra energized personality? What makes a good innovation manager in a company?
It's a very good question, because it's very interesting to see the different innovation managers that have and get the title of being the VP innovation or innovation leader. Most of them actually grow from the company itself. It's usually somebody that was very kind of entrepreneur, very, as you said, energetic, very has inspiration and really wants to take things forward. And they usually come from either business development, strategy, a little bit of marketing, but usually they come from that kind of world. Most innovation leaders are actually not tech people. And that could be also a barrier when working with startups. So a lot of innovation leaders usually they need to outsource the due diligence part and the part knowing how to actually evaluate startups. So that's, kind of in a different subject, but there's no handbook, there's no guidebook. There's a course, Catalyst has once a year innovation management course. And if I have to think about, kind of the more crucial maybe tools or skills that innovation leaders need, is the first thing that comes to my mind is a people's person. An innovation leader must be in close relationship, as I said, top management to all employees across the board, has to have a way to lead and convince people to actually join the innovation efforts. So it has to be very, strong, persuasive, very, knows the vision that he holds. But also be able to, deal with natural resistance. And you were talking about it before, natural resistance from within the organization. Nobody wants, change. We hate change as humans, or on a psychological level. We don't like change. Everybody wants to do their job, what they're used to, what they best know. And for innovation to actually occur or happen, things have to change. So that is also a very important skill, to know how to manage this kind of resistance within the organization. And as I said, another thing that is hugely important is not to be afraid to fail, to change, the agility to change the model or the plan according to reality, according to the POC results, according to what's going on outside the world. We saw it now during COVID-19. A lot of companies, the ones that were fast, agile, were not afraid to do pivot, to change, to actually look different at their customers, look different at their, things that they sell. These are the companies that actually grew from this crisis. And when, different companies or organizations were like, oh my God, kind of shut down, close the windows, let us just go through it. They're behind. And this year was actually a huge test for, agility, taking risks, putting yourself out there, being more, humble, with your customers and with the, the ecosystem. So I think really this was a very important year for this subject in organizations.
And I think that it's becoming, more and more relevant, because if you look 50 years ago at innovation, I would argue that a company would look at it and say, well, yes, we're making today X amount of dollars on this product. We could make more, but in order to do that, we have to waste a bunch of R&D resources and experimentation and failures. Well, maybe it's not worth it right now because, things are working. Let's just go with the flow. We've seen that model work for a while, and then we come to around the 80s or 90s, and we see this model fail miserably with companies like Blockbuster and Barnes & Noble. And these are great companies that I'm sure that at some point the management came together and said, maybe we should move from DVDs to online streaming. And I'm sure that somebody said, no, it's not worth it. It's too much. It would be too much. And we saw the result. And so I think that today in 2021, and especially in 2020, like you're mentioning, we're saying that, however big you are, if you don't innovate, another startup is going to come quickly with a lot of capital. There's we're seeing incredible things happening, and you no longer have this added advantage that you're an incumbent with a lot of money, because now things are becoming much more democratized in this way. And so I think that what you're describing here is the innovation management is not just relevant for becoming better, but it's relevant for your existence. And today you have to remain relevant, right?
Exactly.
So Romi, go ahead.
No. I was saying that I think it's also just to add that I'm very happy with this change, because this year really also bonded together the ecosystem, the community, the customers with the companies. And it's something that is becoming very, important for corporates to understand, that they have to outreach, they have to talk, they have to connect with their customers and with the community and with the ecosystem. Nobody lives in a bubble anymore. You can't just continue with your bread and butter and think that everything will be fine. It's not. So I think this is a very, very good change that I'm very happy about. So just to add in.
Thank you for that addition. I have some fun questions for you, Romi. So start off from hard. We'll start off hard and we'll go to harder. First, a role model, somebody real or not that you would look at as a role model.
Wow. Okay. This is probably going to be a bit cheesy, but I don't care. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs themselves. My two completely different, fields. My dad was in telecom for many, many years, a serial entrepreneur. And then 15 years decided that he's moving into sustainability, impact, clean tech, and not, giving a hand to anything that doesn't have a great and powerful impact to the world. So he really taught me a lot of values about, pushing forward, being, agile, trying, your hardest all the time, not being afraid to have a vision. And everybody's like, what's going on? What will be CatalystIL? And, this is what I had in the beginning. People didn't understand what we were talking about. And, today Catalyst is Catalyst. And my mom on the other side also, she's coming from the arts and design, and really, I think this two kind of worlds combining together, really the realistic side of me and the art side of me, and the more creative side, is very special. And, they're two of my, I think, best role models.
I love it. Favorite subject in school?
Theater, of course. Yes, theater.
Did you participate in any plays, musical theater?
Yeah. I was studying actually theater for about 10 years, since the age of 13 and until I joined the army. So maybe even earlier, from like the age of 12. I love theater. I love the text. I love playing. I love the arts with it. So theater will be my favorite, of course.
And the hardest question of all, 3 words that you would choose to describe yourself or other people would choose to describe you.
Wow. Okay. I would say leader, creative, and optimistic.
I love it. Romi.
Did that work?
That works perfectly.
So
Thank you very, very much for coming here. I loved talking innovation. I loved talking, both high level, low level, details, generalizations. I think the world is changing before our eyes, and these are exactly the types of conversations that I want to have when we think about the changing markets and how everything is shifting before us, and we're trying to sort of piece the puzzle together little by little. So thank you very much for coming here, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, you too. Thank you. Have a great day.